Welcome back to Wonder of Faith. As always, I'm Anthony Bush, and today we're going to be talking about the namesake of the channel. What is the Wonder of Faith, and how does it affect us? But first, I want to welcome you all back, my friends, my family, my fellow Wondresses, my fellow Catholics, my fellow Christians, and any of you who are new to the channel, just happen to click by. Welcome. It's great to see you. So what I'm going to do is just kind of talk about what the Wonder of Faith is and why it's important, because I think it in many ways is the bedrock to living a faithful life. Of everything that we do, it's kind of the spirit, it's the glue, it's the origin of all these things, and it's the origin because it is from God, God being the origin of all things. So is the wonder of faith, which is a particular aspect of faith. So firstly, let's talk about faith in general. What is faith? Faith is not a blind belief without evidence. That is not what faith is at all. Rather, it is a trust in God that is warranted. So we don't trust that a stranger is going to catch us when we fall all of a sudden because they have no reason to believe we're going to fall. And also, they don't know us. They have no responsibility to us. So our faith is misplaced. It is not a true faith, but rather a blindness without any value or virtue to it. Faith, on the other hand, is a virtue that allows us to come to know God, to have a relationship with Him, and to trust Him. That is what faith is. And the interesting thing about faith is that it is given to us by God, and then we act and willfully return it to Him by being faithful to Him. So faith is not something that we do on our own, but it is a grace, it is an ability that strengthens over time, and is increased by one's reliance on God. And as that obedience, that desire to come closer to Him continues to strengthen, the grace of God supports the faith even more. So it's a bond, it's a union of God and human person that is unique and special and unlike any type of relationship we have. Faith is not something you can see, it is not something that is measurable, but it is an innate aspect of our being. We have faith in each other as human beings. We have faith in our parents, in our friends, our family, our wives, husbands, but that's a very scaled down version of faith. We have faith that they have our well-being at heart, that they care about us, and they certainly do, and that faith grows and strengthens and is unwavering eventually. But with God, because it is from God Himself, it's a divine faith. It's much stronger and of a deeper essence. It's felt differently than these other types of faith because God being infinite, God being unlimited, gives unlimitingly to us. And faith is the same. It's an ever-deepening, ever-strengthening faith that has no end, has no bounds, and continues to flourish if we allow it to, if we will it to be so. So with that in mind, what then is the wonder of faith? Well, wonder is one of my favorite words. The wondrous orders, they don't take that name just spontaneously, but it's with intent that I use the word wonder because it's an attempt to grasp something that is not understandable. It is an attempt to see, to perceive, to take in that which is greater than ourselves, that which is unable for us to be contained by us. And when the human soul tries this activity of awe or wonder, it's almost as if it's understanding its own mystery, its own wonder. Because by feeling this and seeing this greater than the here, we begin to see it in other places, in ourselves and others, in God. And so to wonder, to move forward and ever upward toward that which we cannot understand, but that which gives us life, we are doing one of the ultimate actions humanly possible. The wonder of faith is not just a goal, but it is this will, this special will of the human person, it's knowing that what we want to grasp is not within our reach, at least now, but we still go for it because through it, through the discovery, through the inspiration, through the revelations, we come to know ourselves better and we grow over time. Today's Ash Wednesday, if you didn't notice by my head, and really Ash Wednesday is a solemn day because it begins the Lenten season. We begin that walk in the desert with Christ, without water, without the joy of living comfortably or in our own skin. But even in that, there's a wonder. There's a joy, even in the solemnness, because by being solemn, by sacrificing for this short time, these 40 days, this sense of normalcy, we're allowing ourselves to look at something higher, to move towards something that's greater, and bringing joy to ourselves in the process. We all know what happens at the end of Lent. It's the sacrifice of our Lord and finally His resurrection. We know that and we keep that in mind. But we start here. We start at the sacrifice. We start at those 40 days because it's a mountain to climb. To reach the joy, we have to climb the mountain. We have to understand that joy. We have to experience it fully by understanding what it took to get it. Mm-hmm. And so even in that understanding, we go throughout the week longing, knowing, waiting for that joy to finally come forth from the great sacrifice. There's a wonder in that wonder of faith, that faith we have in God, that trust, that unbreakable bond pulls us towards this otherworldly greatness. I talked about greatness in the last period, but it's part of that process of greatness. It's bringing us ever upward, ever toward that which is not reachable now, but will be eventually, after this life, for instance. And so to just bask in the wonder of God, and to not just see what's before us, but take it all into perspective. Allow it to enter your heart, your soul, and let it sit there. That God created everything around us. Everything has a purpose. Everything grows and moves and functions for a purpose. And we're a part of it. We're a part of this world, and we have some agency over it. We have the free will to do so. And with that in mind, we start to see the magnificence of nature, the magnificence of existence itself, of being, of thinking, of acting. All these basic things that make up who we are and what the world is begin to transform us and bring us closer to the truth. There's a difference between fact and truth, I say. A fact is that today we are in the month of March. That's a fact. But that has no bearing on my life, really. I just know what time of year it is. But to know, in truth, that we seek out God, and through seeking, we better and transform ourselves every day. That's a reality. That's true. It's not just a fact, though. It is transformative. It is helping us be better people. It is transforming the very nature of who we are. As long as we allow it to happen and we pursue it, of course. But that's what wonder is. It's taking the mundane and realizing it's not just what's on the surface. There's so much more to it. And by putting ourselves at the foot of these wonders and this glory and magnificence of God, we are seeing what really is. We are taking the time and the will to pull away the mundane and see reality as it is. But we have to contemplate. We have to be willing to have faith and let the wonder come forth from it and make us grow as people. It's a process. It's something that's practiced. It's a discipline even. But it's definitely one that's attainable. Never are we to fear the process of finding wonder in ourselves and in others, of seeking the wonder of God. That is the motto of the orders. It is wonder for God. Wonder for Him. Move toward Him. Act for Him. Be for Him. All these things. It's part of a great whole. It is not a separate thing. We are not studying one minute and eating the next, and they're two separate things, or we're in two separate modes, but it's all part of the great story. Religion oftentimes is a story, but let's not confuse it with a fiction. A fiction is something that is made up from the human mind, that is an art form because it is imaginary and it is unique. But a religion has a story, and it's usually not considered false by those who practice it, but it's drawing on the very person. It's acting on our nature, on our soul, and calling us to better. Showing us what we need to do and where we need to be. And so religion is not merely fiction, but it is salvational. The church in particular, it is salvational, and it is fulfilling because it holds and gives what is missing in our lives. You've heard me say it before. We have a hole in our hearts, a desire that can only be filled by God. And the church knows how to fill it because the church is the arbiter of God. It is the mechanism by which God reaches us. God wishes to use his own people to help the other. And so with the church being that way, she is in many ways the true article of the wonder of faith. By going to Mass, by hearing the prayers, by knowing the mission and the aim of the church, this wonder, this great glory comes forth. And if we look at it long enough, if we take time to see what the church has, then we'll fall in love with her. I know I have. But we see who she really is. And then everything else is put into perspective, and we're not so worried about small details anymore, because we know that as long as we're with her and she comforts us, we grow. We strive harder for the better. And we finally do what we were meant to do. Once again, it takes time, it takes effort. But just starting with the everyday, seeing the wonder of your very life, and understanding that it's from something, it is not in itself just good, but that through God's creation of you, and through your actions that God allows you to do, and has given you the opportunity to do through your free will, you can make manifest the good. You can be a cause of wonder. And that's magnificent in and of itself. Not only are we pursuing it, but we're also creating it through the gifts that God has given us. It's all wonders from God, but we can take part in that process. And so as all my videos are posted, and the ones I've done so far, keep that in mind, that the wonder of faith, this journey we're on, this narrative that we're understanding, is all unitive, that it's all aiming for the same thing, just through different words and different concepts, but it's all the same. To wonder for God, to come to experience God, to know truth and live it out accordingly. That's all it is. In obedience. Simple, but hard, I know. And it's a magnificent thing. And I think too many people don't take the time to realize it these days. They're out off searching for something else, or they're too caught up in their daily lives. But in the end, it's up to us to finally put a stop to that, to move out of the mundane and into the wondrous. I know I want to be that. I want to be the wondrous, the one who can do that every day. That's what I'm striving for. That is what the whole goal of the wondrous orders are, to make a wondrous of a person, someone who can seek the wonder of God and try to strive for greatness through that wonder, through that understanding and inspiration that God provides, by just keeping your eyes locked on Him. And so I hope that my case is persuasive in some way. I hope you give it a try. As these ashes on my head remind me that we are not permanent, that we will one day turn to dust, but the wonder of God and God Himself are not going to turn to dust. And so we can look forward in hope to Him who's always with us. And that part of us will always remain, will always exist. And that's wondrous in and of itself. As always, may God be with you, and may you find final victory in Christ.